Hey, hello everyone. This is me, Sandy, and you are on our special webinar that we have twice a week from Celestia, and it's called Ignite with Sandy. So, what is Ignite? Ignite is to fire up, to get it going, to get up and do something, to get that energy, that enthusiasm. And I always choose guests who will make you do just that. So, what is it called? It's called passion and perseverance. Yeah. So when you hear the word perseverance, oh my God, hard work. Yep, there is hard work. But if you have passion, it's going to be absolutely marvelous because it's not going to be hard work anymore. And today we have a very special lady. When I heard about her and I read about her, I said, oh my God, whatever happens, I have to get this lady to come on my show. And believe me, it was difficult. But she's one of those people who knows how to manage her time. And although she does so much, when she's doing whatever she's doing, she's always focused on that. So when she came on today, it was like, I had to do this and that. And but now she's here and she's absolutely focused on going to speak to us and share with us what she does. Okay, so I, as usual, would like my guests to introduce themselves because they know themselves best, right? So here we have Hana Al Nabulsi. Who is she?
Hi.
She is a person, if you can look at the back of her, you will see a lot of colored ribbons and a lot of medals. So move it. Yeah. Can you see those? Yeah. Those are medals that she's got because of what she does. So she is an athlete, a triathlon athlete. And Hannah, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Hi. So I'm Hana. Thank you so much, Sandy, for the small introduction. So I'm an Emirati triathlete, and currently I'm on the path of getting into the Olympics, hopefully for Paris 2024. I started triathlons in 2019, and then prior to that, I was a runner. So a lot changed, obviously, from 2019. I found my love for triathlon during lockdown, I want to say.
Okay.
And yeah, like it's now turned into my full career. I had to pause everything else in my life to focus on this 100%. Training for the Olympics is I think it takes around like 80% of your day, and then the 20% is you basically sleeping. Um, but yeah, so that's what I do. And yeah.
Okay. So I wanted, you said you fell in love with this idea of being in the Olympics. So, and you talked about COVID times when you started on this. So was there anybody who sort of motivated you or suggested to you? How did you come about this?
So it actually happened the summer of 2019. I was sitting with one of my cousins, and he kind of just looked at me and was like, I bet you can't do an Ironman. I'm like, what's Ironman? And then he like shows me on his phone. I was like, what the hell? This race is crazy. And prior to that, I've never even heard of a triathlon. He's like, I dare you to do an Ironman. I was like, okay, fine, but only if you do it with me. He's like, okay, fine. So he's like, in 2 years. I'm like, no, in 1 year. So I moved to Toronto at the time, and I started training, and I started training very aimlessly. Like I had no idea what I was actually doing because, like I said, I had no idea what a triathlon was. 2 weeks in, I messaged him. I'm like, "Oh, are you training?" He's like, "Yeah, I know about that. I'm not gonna do it anymore. Like I don't have time for it." I was like, "Okay, fine." I continued training. COVID hit in, when was it? March, and I
Hmm.
had my Ironman race September of that year. So it kept getting pushed for I think like a good 2 years
Yes.
or a good year. So I continued training throughout the whole of lockdown. Like I even remember like my swim training, because I was in Toronto at the time as well, and I was living in an apartment.
Okay.
There was no pools, so like it was me kind of just improvising on the ground
Okay.
with like bands. And then at some point I was like, let me try the bathtub. Like I saw someone like training in the bathtub for like a swim. um so that's kind of how it started. And then at some point I remember coming back to Dubai to see my family, and there was a triathlon race happening. I was like, okay, I might as well try do this triathlon race, like since I'm going to be doing Ironman, like let me see like what this thing is. I went and I did it, and I had so much fun. It was so hard. I remember hitting third place for my age group, and at the time I didn't really understand what that was either. um so that's kind of how it started. I was like, okay, wow, this triathlon's pretty hard. So I continued training. I go to Mexico September 2021. I think it was September 2021.
Yes.
And during this period as well, I thought I was training for a full Ironman. So there's two types of Ironman. There's 70.3 and then there's a full Ironman. So for a good year, I want to say, or a good 6 months, I thought I was training for a full Ironman. And then a friend of mine is like, no, you're doing a 70.3. I'm like, what's a 70.3? He's like, it's half Ironman. I'm like, oh my God. So like, he was like another thing. I was like, crap, I've been training for so long, so much for a full Ironman. It was kind of like I had to cut my training in half. So I went and I did the first 70.3 in Mexico in Cozumel, and was the youngest Emirati to ever finish doing like a Ironman 70.3. And then
were you intimidated when you saw all these really super fit people over there? You know, here you are, you know, this young girl competing over there. How did you feel?
Honestly, because of how long I waited, I just wanted to do it. Like, it was so long. Every month I was getting a new email saying the race is being postponed. And in my head at some point, I'm like, how long am I going to be training for this race for? Like, I just want it to happen. And I remember in Mexico, I actually had like an incident 5 days before the race. I got a heat stroke and I had to go to the hospital. Yeah, it was a disaster. And I had to go to the hospital, and he's like, yeah, don't do the race. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'd been training for like 2 years at this point. I'm doing the race. So I went and I did the race, and I even remember like crawling at the finish line. Like, I literally just collapsed. I was like, okay, I'm done. And it was honestly the best feeling ever. Like, it was, I don't think I've ever been so happy in my life. Like, it was a form of euphoria I don't think I've ever experienced. And looking around, like, the age gap was huge. Like, I could tell like I was one of the youngest there. And I remember talking to a few people there, and they were like, oh, like, how old are you? And I think at the time I was 23 or 24. They're like, oh, wow, like, you're pretty young to do like this race. I was like, oh, like, why? Like, how old are you? And they were like, oh, like in the 50s or 60s. I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
I guess I just got into this world a bit too early. But my obsession kind of grew from then. Like, I just became like obsessed with Ironmans, obsessed with triathlons. And then I went to dozens of triathlons after that.
So
I feel like I've hit like 100.
The people,
Sorry?
for the ladies who don't really know what Ironman is, can you just tell us a little bit about what are the various things that you have to do in this particular event?
Okay, so a full Ironman is a 4-kilometer swim, a 180-kilometer bike ride, and then a 42-kilometer run. And it's all at the same time. So like, you're finishing it all at like, it's all consecutive. And then a half Ironman is basically half the distances. So it's 2-kilometer swim, 90-kilometer bike ride, and a 21-kilometer run. So I've done 2 of the 70.3s. And honestly, like, thinking, I was like, at the time where I was like, wow, I thought I was going to do a full Ironman. Like, thank God I did a 70.3. Like, this was so hard.
Because you crawled to the finish line, right?
Yeah, and it was so hot that day. Like, I think there was even an announcement, like a warning about the heat. It was like 39 degrees or 38 degrees. The humidity was ridiculous. But like I said, like, I honestly didn't care about anything. I just wanted to do this race. I'm like, I couldn't anymore. Like, there was not an extra month I would have trained. Like, I'm like, I've trained for 2 years, need to do it, need to get done and over with it. Like, it was one of those like things.
Being an Emirati young girl, how does your family and the people around you react to your sporty kind of activities, and, you know, going out and swimming and, you know, running and all of those things? And how do they react to that? And what kind of support do you have?
Honestly, I'd say they are the most supportive human beings ever. Like, I wouldn't be the point I am right now without them. Like, they've never been like, oh, like, why would you do this or do that? Like, if anything, they're like, yeah, go do it. Like, they're like, I would say like we even have like a family group chat. It's called the Crazy Family. Like, we are all very exotic as human beings. Like, each of us, we just have such big personalities. And since I was younger, like, I was always athletic, like, and they've known that about me. So every time I'd come up with a new race, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, go for it. So honestly, I would say like, I'm very lucky that I've never actually had any issues in that sense. Like, it was very easy flowing. Like, I even remember the day I decided, I was like, I want to get into the Olympics. My dad just fist pumped me. He's like, do it. I was like, okay. It was kind of, that's how, like.
Yeah. So, for example, if we were to compare life to an event like yours, you know, in the triathlon, so there are a lot of things that go into, obviously, training for this, participating in it, and all the different mental and physical challenges that you face along the way, and of course at the event itself. So I think you have a passion for it, if I'm not mistaken,
Oh yeah,
right?
no, for sure. Like I love it. It's
Yeah.
actually, it's
So
like
does it
it's
give you a high every time you feel that muscle pain, or you feel that breathlessness, like I can't take another step further, and then you just go?
yes. But obviously, like I will be truthful. There are days where I really don't want to train, and I'm like, oh, like I'm just so tired, or um, I'm just so not motivated in that sense. But like because I've built such a discipline and like a consistency with it, like it's even when I'm not in the mood, like I'll get into my training session halfway through, I feel alive again. So sometimes initially it's like, oh, I drag myself there. Um, but like throughout it, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, and I get that like euphoria feeling, that high of like, especially during my runs, like my runs for me are like my life. Um, so I would say like it's a huge passion. Like it's not like, and that was one of the reasons why I was like, I will get to my goal because I love doing what I'm doing. If it was
Yeah.
something I was forced to do, I don't think it would happen. But because I love doing it,
Yes.
I think it will
I think
happen.
it's important even in life, if you're choosing something to study at university, or a business that you want to start, or a career that you want to have. I think what you just mentioned is the passion.
Yeah,
Because if
I
you
think
don't have
it's
that passion, any challenges like you're facing, it's also a physical and a mental challenge, because you have to put yourself into the right frame of mind before you can move your body, right?
oh for sure. Yeah, like it's like I would say the mental challenge is probably harder, like it's than the physical challenge of it, because I feel like our bodies in general, like they could take a huge load. But it's actually just convincing yourself that you can. And I would say specifically in races, particularly for
Yes.
me, like sometimes I pressure myself a lot. Like I've had a lot of races where I ended up just vomiting. Like it was just out of like stress. So like it's always controlling the mind over the body. And like I've noticed, like when I go in and I'm like, I just want to have fun for this race. It's not like I don't care about my numbers for this race. I end up hitting like personal bests and I feel great after my race. So like it's a huge mental challenge, especially the fact that like, let's say like for me, my training isn't in the afternoon or at night. It's really early in the morning and it's 4 hours. It's not like, oh, for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. It's like 2, 3, 4 hours. And it's a load. Like it's like intense. Like my legs even split, like today I'm like walking like with noodle legs. Like it's but at the same time I enjoy it, like if you were
Yes.
to go into something and you just simply just don't connect with it, it's no use. Like you will stick in a plateau because you don't love it, you don't want to learn more about it, you don't
Yeah.
want to push yourself more. But when it's something that you actually are obsessed with and have a huge passion for, there's no doubt you'd reach a goal, like your goal,
Yes.
and get to levels you never even thought of because you love doing it so much.
Yeah. So passion is important. And you said perseverance, because, when your legs are giving way and your muscles are really burning up, because, you have to do just so many more weights, or so many more push-ups or sit-ups or whatever it is you do. It's that
Yeah,
perseverance, I think, that makes the difference. Do you agree? Is perseverance important?
a huge, yeah, I think it's maybe as equal, it's like equal to passion. Like I think it's, when it comes to perseverance, let's say, like I remember there was a race of mine, I finished the swim and I initially went into the race not feeling so great. I thought I had food poisoning. Um, and I finished the swim and I was vomiting right after the swim. Like I just did not feel good. And I sat there, I'm like, crap, like, and this race specifically was like a qualifying race for like upcoming races I was trying to get into. So I was like, okay, I just need to go as fast as I can. Like let me just hold it all in and just do it and then deal with whatever I'm feeling after the race. And then that race was also a personal best that got me qualified for the federation. They got me qualified for the races that happened in, I think it was December, November.
Okay.
That have also helped me get qualified for this year's races. So when it comes to perseverance, it's control. It's basically
Yes.
controlling your emotions, controlling your thoughts, controlling your body, and literally fighting for it and just flying. So like
Okay.
I would say it's probably as equal, like passion and perseverance is like kind of, yeah.
So what about perspective, because when you're looking at it, what is your perspective? Is it like, are you clouded by or confused by other things, or are you very clear on your perspectives and you're focusing on that? So do you sort of sometimes write down, I need to do this is my perspective, this is how I want to look at it? Do you ever do an exercise like that?
I would say I've done, let's say I've had to change my perspective over swimming, because for me, swimming still is the hardest one out of the three sports for me. And I think it's maybe something typical out of like, I think every human being, like if you feel like you're not good at doing something, you don't actually love it as much. So since like, I want to say a year ago, I had to continuously change my perspective of swimming. Before every swimming session, I had to look at it in a different angle, because if I was looking at it in the lens that I was looking at it as a person that wasn't amazing at swimming, that I wouldn't be able to push myself. But because I had to keep changing my perspective, I've been able till this day to knock off seconds, minutes out of my swims and continue going on in this manner.
Yes. So when you're talking about, the eating and the sleeping and the socializing and the family and the training and all, how important is it to prioritize your activities?
So I would say like the type of lifestyle that I live, everything I'd put it like in bubbles. So like, let's say recovery, sleep, training, what else?
Family.
So family.
Other commitments which are not really what you do, but they're still there, and you still have to appear somewhere, do something.
Yeah.
So how do you prioritize that? How important is it? How to prioritize to balance it?
So when I decided to get into this world, I knew exactly, well, I didn't know exactly the cost to be paid till I was going through the journey. Because like, obviously it was still like, it's not like I've tried to get into the Olympics in the past or tried to go pro in the past. Like this was the first time this is a new journey for me. So I thought I understood what my priorities had to be till maybe like, I would say every 3 months, I knew what I had to change. And something I've come to the conclusion, my training and recovery and eating and sleeping is my number one priority. And then comes my family and my socializing and my friends and stuff, because what I'm trying to do is trying to hit the 1% of the bar for the Olympics is so high. And I wasn't groomed into this world. So I know that I have to do maybe 10 times more work than any other athlete. So I do have to, till I get to my goal, prioritize that as my number one thing, and then comes in the rest. And because thankfully, like I have such a strong support group, they understand, like it's not like my family at some point, they didn't see me for maybe a good month, maybe. And they're like, Hana, like you've disappeared. I'm like, you guys know, like training and races, they're like, yeah. And like, they cheer me on. Because it's hard, like there are so many moments where I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm missing out, or like I feel like I'm not there for a certain friend or for whatever it is. But they know as well as I know, like what I'm trying to do is basically like seen as like impossible, or whatever aspect or whatever perspective you have of it. And the bar is so high for it. So like I had to put everything in boxes and decide what I need to do to get to where I want to get to.
I think it's this is a very good analogy of what happens in business. And when you're a woman running a business, it's like you wanting to achieve this goal, and you have to work towards it. But you have to sort of clear your mind and say, okay, this is my focus, this is my goal, this is my priority, and this is how I have to list out my tasks based on my understanding of what comes first, second, third, fourth.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of times women try to do everything. They want to be pleasing, they don't want to upset anybody, and they want to meet their deadlines and whatever else. And then they're so confused and so tired mentally that they can't think clear or even focus on what they are supposed to do, which is their objective. So what you're saying is, because yours is physical and mental. It's not only physical, it's mental. Because unless you're in the mental frame, the correct mental frame, it cannot translate into the physical. Am I correct?
100%, 100%. Like it's even like sometimes within like my swimming session, like in the beginning, I won't be hitting the numbers that I want to or like hope to get, and then halfway through, I'm like I could do it, and I keep telling myself I'm like I could do it, push, 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 and then I go and do it, and like if anything, like my body should be tired halfway through,
Yes.
but because I've finally mentalized or whatever the term is, like
Yes.
I've internalized what I want to get out of the session, it finally happens. So
So,
it's the
well,
mental your thoughts are so important,
very
so
important, right?
important.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you come to being patient, okay. So there is an objective you have to achieve. You want to finish running in X number of minutes, or finish the swim in X number of minutes, or lift X number of weights, or whatever it is. So uh, are you patient with yourself? It's like, okay, if I couldn't do it this time, it's okay. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'll just focus and do better the next time. What do you do? Are you patient or impatient?
I am very impatient. Very impatient. But like if anything, if this journey has taught me something, it is to be patient. Like
Okay.
it's like every time like I don't hit a note, I'm like, why? Like why did that happen? Like, and I'm hard on myself. Like I and it's something I'm continuously working on. But no, like I'm not patient. I'm a lot more patient than I was. Like I remember in the beginning, I'm like, why am I not like, why didn't I hit that number? Like, why did my body feel like this today? Like, why do I feel weaker today than I did yesterday? And I wasn't really like giving myself that like pat on the back. It was more like, no, like
Looking at the
I wasn't
negative.
doing.
Oh, I couldn't do this. I couldn't finish. But instead of saying, well, I did so well, I did better than the last time, and I really gave
Yeah.
my best. So now have you learned how not to beat yourself up, and to be a little bit kinder to yourself and say, you know what, next time I'll just focus a little more and put in a little more energy and be a little more positive, and I will achieve it.
Yeah, so I would say a lot of my attitude towards myself and everything that I'm doing has changed a lot. Like I've recently come to, not even recently, I want to say the past couple of months, where I just want to enjoy this journey wherever it takes me. And I think that alone, like I remember my last race, I went in, I'm like, I just want to have fun, because this is initially what was the whole purpose. Like it's something I enjoyed. So I was like, I just want to have fun. The journey is insane. It's such an adventure. And so I started to change my perspective of it. Like, but when it comes to some training sessions and I want to hit certain numbers, I am sometimes harsh on myself, and like I'm like, but why? But for me, I think that kind of pushes me for the next training session. So in a way, it's good that I kind of have that. But now I'm also trying to control it in the sense where I'm trying to actually live and
You're not
look
trying
out,
to
like
be
look within.
so what you're saying is you're disciplined and you push yourself, but you're not hard on yourself if you can't really achieve that little goal that you were looking for.
Yeah, like I'm looking at it more now, like this is honestly an insane experience, and the whole journey, like it's once I do reach my goal, it's not the actual goal, it's what happened in throughout all these years for me to get to the goal. And I always need to just remember that, because once I stop enjoying what I'm doing, that's where the passion is kind of also lost. Like, so
Yes.
I always need to remind myself that this is something that I love, this is something and as time goes by, like without a choice, your body does get stronger if you continuously keep training. So it's something I need to also have faith in. That's something actually my coach always reminds me. He's like, just trust the process, just trust the process. And he's taught me a lot. Like he's seen where I am now, where I was when we first started training. And when I say a huge difference, I mean, like I've taken out maybe 20 minutes out of like my races.
Okay.
And it's because I'm trusting the process, and I'm also enjoying the process. And I'm also hard on myself, but it's also important to be hard on myself, because if I was too lenient, it won't allow me to push. So like it's always like, I guess, a balance in it all.
So when you are trying to achieve a certain objective, for example, your swim time, because that's the part you don't like, right?
Yeah.
So when you're trying to achieve that swim time, and you say, okay, I'm going to shave off a minute or 2 minutes from the last time, okay, and for you, you don't really enjoy it so much. So how do you get yourself to into that frame of mind, which then translates into your body and your movements and the energy levels to achieve that? Is it something that you have to really focus on, or are you hard on yourself, or you say, you know what, I'm just so marvelous and so wonderful, and of course I can do it?
No, honestly, what I end up doing is actually thinking of where I am. Like there is something beautiful about the pool and the sea, like when you're swimming in like in liquid, and that's how it kind of starts. Like it's like I stop thinking of my actual training, and I
Okay.
take myself in a state of, I guess maybe it's called a meditative state, like where it's like I'm actually feeling what I'm around. I'm actually feeling what's happening, um, and kind of connecting myself to the pool or to the sea. And then the second I do that, I'm like, no, I can do it. I can do it. Because when it's you against the current, you're just gonna keep clashing. But once you're within the current and you're going with it, everything just changes.
Yes,
So
very true.
so I have to get myself into that state of mind where I am with the actual water. Um, and I think that's exactly what happens, because I noticed that past couple of times where I've actually not been thinking, but I was actually feeling instead. That's when things changed, and then my thoughts proceeded with the feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how important is downtime and pampering yourself?
Well, I would say honestly, one of my favorite things about this whole journey is the fact that I need to get a lot of massages. Like I have to get them, and for me, I'm like, this is amazing. Like I love massages, you know. So I would say like there is pampering out of no choice, because you have to actually pamper yourself.
Yes.
And for me, massages is like pampering myself, and um, it's important. Like, you know, like if as long as like your mental health is just important as your physical health, and if you're not actually taking care of yourself throughout the journey, then you're just gonna destroy your body as well at the same time. So it's I would say like it's an equal 50-50.
Yeah, because what I've noticed is a lot of people who are not into sports at all, they're more into, you know, business and driving themselves to the way I think, pretty insane, trying to do something, and they totally neglect themselves. It's like no sleep, no me time, no pampering, no nothing, and they're this, you know, they're completely frayed at the edges. They lose their temper. They don't have patience, and everything, there's hyperacidity and all kinds of various things that the body starts responding. And I always say it's so important. And here you are saying that you have to enjoy yourself and you have to get the massages
Oh
because
yeah.
it's part of the downtime, right?
Honestly, my favorite thing as well is the fact that I have to sleep a lot as well. So I'm like, wow, and I'm a person that could sleep. Like I've hit records with my sleeping. Like it's, so the fact that that is a big part as well of what I have to do, it wasn't an issue for me at all. Like I'm like, okay, like I need to sleep like 8-10 hours a night. So I'll sleep 10 hours a night. Like, no complaints there. So it's very important to actually make sure that happens, and like the alone time as well is very important. Like I make sure in every day, like I have 1 hour where I'm just watching my series. Most of the time it's like an hour before I sleep. um but like it's so important, like your mental health, and like this 1 hour as well, I don't touch my phone, I don't play with my phone, I don't do anything. I put on do not disturb, leave on the side, and watch my series, and then close my laptop and fall asleep. So like it's really important. Like it's like literally as equally important as everything else.
Yeah, I think what you just said, it applies completely in the people who are, for example, in the workplace, whether they're working in a corporate sector or the SME, or they're entrepreneurs and they have their own businesses. It's very much like achieving their goal. The goal is to be successful. The goal is to make a lot of money. The goal is to be financially independent. The goal is to expand the business. And there's you who's working on your goals, and your goals is the Olympics,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So what I think is very important is when we look at your journey and we look at the journey of people who are not in sports, you're actually quite similar.
Yeah, the mindset has to be like if anything, like I listen to a lot of like business podcasts and like sports podcasts at the same time, because the philosophies are the same. in the sense of like the discipline, the consistency, the canceling out the noise, reconnecting with yourself, pushing through the term impossible or whatever, like breaking through the status quo, taking yourself out of like the boxes that society put us in. Like it's all under the same thing, because like you will hear a lot of people from whatever background they have that will go decide that they want to open up a business. Some may have the correct like experience, some may not.
Yes.
But for them to get to that point of success for their company, it's the same concept as anyone deciding to go do like a crazy sporting event, like whether it's Ironman, an ultramarathon, an ocean man, whatever it is the same mental mind, like the same mindset that needs to be carried throughout it all. In a way, it is a business, you know, in that sense. Like it's the entrepreneurial mind.
It's a full-time job.
It is a full-time job.
Yes, I know. And what I like very much is like when you're in your training, or like when a person is in a business, they're doing something, you are very focused on your training. So if I send you a message, at some stage you will respond and say, voice notes, please. I'm in training.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate, because it shows that you are not getting distracted, number one. And more important, you are prioritizing. This is my task, which I need to complete. And I'm not going to get extraneous things distract me.
Yeah.
Correct?
So I've always
that's exactly what happens when women are running business, because we multitask all the time. So it's like, oh, I'll do a little bit of this and I'll do a little bit of that and I'll do this and that. And we sometimes come across as being what others would call scatterbrains. And like, oh, she's all over the place. She doesn't know what she's doing. Why can't she just focus on this? And what you're saying is important, because you have to achieve that goal. You have to have the mental focus. And if your mind is distracted by something else, you lose that focus. You lose that momentum. And that is, I think, one of the things which is extremely important, like you said, whether you're in business or in sport, to have that ability to prioritize and say, no, this is my task for now. Everything else can wait.
Honestly, in the beginning, it was pretty hard because I was scattered. You know, I was exactly what you were saying, like in the sense where like, I thought I could multitask 10 million things. And then I realized I literally couldn't. I'm like, no, when I am training, I'm only training. When I'm not training, I'll put hours aside. I'm like, okay, if I have an hour to do like whatever work I need to be doing, or trying to talk to a training camp, or trying to talk to whoever it is, I set my times, because without it, like honestly, like I lose my mind. I'm like, okay, wait, no, I can't. I say yes to too many things and not be able to actually do it. And it's not like external yeses where people could, it's like, it's internal. I'm like, okay, no, let me box out my day. And because most of my day is training, it's a lot of like, that is it, like that is all I'll be doing. And then whenever I can, I will answer whatever it is I can answer. But it took me a while to actually get there, because I always felt bad. I was like, no, but I don't want someone to think I'm ignoring, or I don't want, but in my head I was like, no, but they'll understand. Like, it's not, I'm not trying to be passive or whatever it is. It's like, I just can't answer. Like, I just need to be doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
So in conclusion, my love, what would you like to share in terms of advice or some kind of guidance to all the ladies who are tuned in today and who will be watching us on YouTube as well? What are the few things that you would share with us that would make people say, okay, fine, this is what I can do. She's doing it, I'm doing it. So give me some of your jewels.
I would say one of the things that I live by is if I could imagine myself there, then it can happen. So for me, like even my first Ironman, my first ultra, my first whatever race it was, I always envisioned myself at the finish line. And if I wasn't able to envision myself there, then it was not something that was for me. Like I remember during, like, let's say this first 70.3, every training session of mine was me imagining myself finishing the race. Same with my training now. Like a lot of the things I think about are me finishing the race, like me finishing the Olympics, with the banner and running through it. Like that is something, a constant thought. So I've come to the consensus, it's like, if I could imagine it, then it can happen. But if it's something that is being forced and you can't see it, then it's not for you. So
You have
that
to
is
own it.
something you have to own it. You have to believe it. You have to have faith in it, because, well, I'd say this from my own personal experience. I don't come from talent. Like, I am not a talented athlete, but I am someone that works very hard. And I'm very well aware that I need to put in a lot more effort than the talented in that sense, to get to where I want to get to. So it's envisioning it that will allow you to actually like get there in that sense. Yeah.
I think that's really very important, and thank you very much for sharing all of that. You've been extremely forthright in what you've said. You've admitted the things that you don't like, and right now the very fact that you are saying to yourself that I'm not as talented as other people, but I have a vision, and I have the
Yeah.
determination, and I have the courage to do it and to succeed.
Yes. And another reason why I'm doing all of this is so people just like me could be like, oh, if she could do it, I could do it. That is like, because like I said, like, I don't come from talent. So like, I want people to believe that they can do it. Like, if I could do it, anyone could do it. Like, it's literally the consistency, the passion, and just the discipline of it all.
That's totally amazing, my love. And thank you so much for sharing that with us, because, you know, people always think when they see your medals and they see your achievements, they think, oh, you know, she's different. And, you know, she must have a lot of talent, or she must have a lot of support, or she must have so much, so much, so much. Only then she can achieve that. But here you are saying that you need to have focus, you need to have perseverance, you need to have the vision, you need to have the passion. And yes, all those medals sitting at the back, soon you won't have any place for anything. And
I was
I
actually
think
thinking I need to get a new one.
actually
pretty
it
full.
looks like that, because that rack can fall off because of the weight of the medals.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's very full.
Yes, yes. I think you need to get a bigger one. Anyway, thank you, my love, very much. And it was a pleasure to have you on our webinar from Celestia. And we hope very much that you can come back and speak with us again, join us again, perhaps be one of our speakers at a future event, if you have the time, of course. Yes, I know you've
Thank you
been very
so much.
obliging. I know you've been very obliging and taken out time for us today. So
No, I'm so happy to be doing this. Thank you so much, Sandy. Honestly,
yeah,
it's such a privilege.
we appreciate you a lot. And from everybody in Celestia and all our members, our readers, everybody, we wish you all the best.
Thank
we
you.
want to see you come back with the trophy.
You will see it in 1 year.
Thank you, darling, and God bless from all of us.
Thank you so, so much.
Okay, so ladies and anybody watching, today was an amazing and I would say very uplifting interview. I've learned a lot. You know, I always say, as Hannah points out, there's no age or stage in your life where you cannot do what you want. I think that's the most important. And of course, as she said, there's passion, there's perseverance, there's perspective, there's patience, and more important, remember to enjoy the journey. Isn't that right? So please do remember to like our Facebook page. And when we upload this fabulous video onto our Celestia YouTube channel, please do watch it, like it, and most important, comment. With that, we come to an end of a very amazing and very enlightening program. Thank you so much, Hannah. God bless.